Hello, welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children, the podcast where I share the recordings of the bedtime stories I've improvised for my children over the years. I'm Dan Wendelin, your host and storyteller. Tonight's story of Winella helping Flibbertygibit and Zinnia at the sanctuary is interrupted at about the 7-minute mark by a wonderful child who is tapping on the dictaphone. It's very short, but I couldn't edit it all out. Sorry. I hope you enjoy this story. Winella was playing upstairs in her room. She had gotten her Lego set out, and she was in the process of building something. She had not exactly decided what it was she was building, but she liked how it was turning out thus far, and she had started to build even faster in her eagerness to find out what it was. She was about halfway finished when she heard the phone ring. And then she heard her mommy calling her. Winella! Winella slid down the slide downstairs calling, "Yes, Mommy."
Downstairs? Oh, she was working in her room?
Yes. And she slid down the slide and she went into the room where her mommy was and she said, "Yes, Mommy." Her mommy said, "There's someone on the phone. He talks very strangely and he says that he's the king of the cats." And Winella said, "Flibbertygibit?" And her mommy said, "Yes, I think that's who it was." And Winella said, "Well, that's strange. He's never called me before. He always sends Theodore." "Thanks, Mom." She picked up the phone and she said, "Hello?" "Oh, yes, Winella. It is good to speak to you. Pardon me for using such a abrupt form of communication as this a telephone, but I'm afraid I have a bit of an emergency, and I was hoping you could try to help." And Winella said, "What's the emergency?" And Flibbertygibit said, "My cousin Zinnia, who runs the sanctuary. I remember meeting her the other day," said Winella. "What's the problem?" "Oh, she tells me that one of the very rarest animals in the sanctuary has wandered outside of the safety of the walls of the sanctuary and is being hunted right this minute. She has to find it before the hunters do, or I'm afraid that we will lose that animal. It will be killed." And Winella said, "That's terrible." She said, "I'll be right there. Where should I meet you?" "You can meet me at my palace, and we will go together to the sanctuary." And the one that Zinnia runs. So Winella checked to make sure it was okay with her mom, and her mom asked if she had her homework done already, and Winella said that she did, and that she had just been working on a Lego creation. And her mom said that she could go, but that she had to be back in time for dinner. So Winella dashed upstairs, and then she picked up her half-finished Lego whatever it was, and stuffed it in her pocket. And then she rushed down the slide, rushed out into her backyard, and jumped onto the Cat's Paw Highway, turning even as she was landing, saying, "Cat's Paw Highway, Cat's Paw Highway, Cat's Paw Highway. Take me where I want to go." And then she found herself going very fast. And as soon as she had stopped, she heard Flibbertygibit behind her saying, "Excellent, let us go." And he stepped up onto the Cat's Paw Highway next to her, and then they were turning around 3 times together. And Flibbertygibit was thinking of where they needed to go. And they were going very fast. It took much longer this time, longer than it had taken when Winella had gone, just from her house to Flibbertygibit's palace.
Like about 1,000 hours?
No, just a minute. But it's much longer than it takes her to get from her house to Flibbertygibit's palace. Her house to Flibbertygibit's palace is just about 15 seconds or so. So it's pretty quick. Anyway, they stopped, and they were on a wide, grassy plain. The grass was tall and came up about to Winella's waist. And as soon as they stepped off...
What age is Winella?
As soon as they stepped off, Winella saw a movement in the grass ahead. And the movement got closer, and then she could see that it was Zinnia, big black panther. Her head was below the top of the grass, so you could only see her by the swaying of the grass when she moved through it. Zinnia said, "Oh, I'm so glad that you have come. We have a terrible problem. I know that the poachers are after the animal that has escaped." Winella said, "Well, if you don't mind me asking, what sort of animal is it?" "Oh, it's one of our very rarest. We only have 7 of them left in the sanctuary. It's a chocolate bear." Winella said, "A chocolate bear?" "Yes." Winella said, "I didn't know there were chocolate bears. I knew there were chocolate bats, but I did not know that there were chocolate bears." "Yes, they are an endangered species even in Candyland. So we've moved them here to be safe, but this one chocolate bear wandered off out of the sanctuary, and we think he may be lost." Winella said, "So you only have 6 left?" "Yes, and when there are so few, every loss is a big one." Winella said, "Okay. Well, do you have any idea which way he went?" "No, we're really not sure." She said, "Are you going to be able to stay and help my cousin?" Flibbertygibit shook his massive head. "No, I wish that I could, but I have a very important meeting today with the King of the Snakes. We have some important things to discuss."
What the heck?
Winella said to Zinnia, "All right, well, come on, let's go. First of all, show me what a chocolate bear looks like." So they went into the sanctuary, and Zinnia introduced her to a chocolate bear. The chocolate bear was big. It was probably twice as tall as Winella. And it was just like the chocolate...
As my foot?
Like as big as me.
Huh? That is so big.
And the chocolate bear...
Like as big as our doors of our closet.
The chocolate bear said, "Oh, I'm so glad you've come. I do hope you find Charlie. He has a tendency to get lost. Very worried about him." So Winella said, "How do you know that someone's hunting him?" "Oh," said Zinnia, "well, I found his trail earlier. Then I saw other trails following them. I think they're chocolate fiends." "Oh, the ones who look for chocolate anywhere and everywhere?" "Yes."
What chocolate fiends?
They're people who really like chocolate. Really, 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 really like chocolate.
Really, 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 really like chocolate.
Yes. So, Winella said, "Well, show me where the track is from earlier." And she followed Zinnia. Soon, they came across an area where the grass was trampled down, and Zinnia said, "See?" And Winella looked down, and she could see that one of the footprints, there was a sharp rock in the ground, and that sharp rock had just a little bit of brown chocolate on it, where a little tiny bit of it had scraped off the chocolate bear's foot. And Winella said, "Can't we just follow this trail?" "Well," said Zinnia, "we could, but the chocolate bear's ahead of us, and the poachers are between him and us. We need to find out where he is so we can take a shortcut." "Oh," said Winella, "but we don't know where he's heading because he's lost, right?" "Yes," said Zinnia. Said Winella. "Oh, I wish Joey were here." "Who's Joey?" said Zinnia. "Joey is my giant condor friend who lives on my roof, and he could fly me above the grasses so we could look down." "Giant condor," said Zinnia. "Giant condors are endangered." "Yes, well, he's very safe on my roof," said Winella. "I don't think you have to worry about him." "No," said Zinnia. "That's not what I meant. They're endangered." "Yeah, I heard you," said Winella. "No," said Zinnia. "They're endangered. And we're next to the sanctuary." "You mean," said Winella, "there are giant condors in the sanctuary?" "Yeah," said Zinnia. "Come on." So they ran back to the sanctuary. and Zinnia found the first giant condor that she could. Winella introduced herself. She said, "I'm Winella." And the giant condor bobbed her head and said, "Well, I'm Lucy. It's a pleasure to meet you." "Tell me," Winella said, have you heard about the chocolate bear missing?" "You mean Charlie?" said Lucy. "Yes, I heard about him. I heard how he's being hunted. Do you think you could carry me into the air so we could look and see if we can find where he is?" Lucy nodded. She said, "Get on my back." So Winella got on Lucy's back, and they went up into the air. Winella looked hard and squinted her eyes, but if the chocolate bear was down there, he was too far off for her to see. She put her hands on her hips. She was frustrated. When she put her hands on her hips, she felt something in the pocket of her adventuring clothes, something that she hadn't remembered being there. She stuck her hand in and found that it was her half-finished Lego whatchamacallit. She looked at it sort of just absent-mindedly while she was thinking about what it was that she needed to do to find the chocolate bear. As she looked at it, she noticed that she had built in a little eyepiece. She held it up to her eye and looked through. And when she looked through, she could see spinning colors. She was like, "Oh, I made a kaleidoscope. That's pretty neat." As she held it up to her eye, though, she noticed that there were also the buttons that she had built on the side. So she tried pressing a button to see if it would change the color of the kaleidoscope. But when she pressed the white button, which was the only one she'd put on so far, the colors all disappeared, and suddenly she could see the ground below her through the half-finished Lego contraption. And it looked very close. She thought, "Oh, it's a kaleidoscope and a binocular." So she began to look along the ground, and she saw the path as Lucy soared along, and then she began to follow the path, looking through the monocular, and then she saw a bunch of people, and they were carrying marshmallows and graham crackers and hot chocolate cups. She thought, "Oh, those must be the chocolate fiends." And then the path got harder to follow in front of them because it was just the chocolate bear. And she moved the binocular, and then she saw him. She saw Charlie, and she saw that he was not that far ahead of the chocolate fiends. And she knew she had no time to land and tell Zinnia. So she told Lucy where to go. She pointed and she said, "Go." So Lucy dove down and landed right in front of Charlie the chocolate bear. And when Ella hopped up, she said, "Charlie?" He looked at her. He said, "I don't know you. Who are you?" And Winella said, "I'm from the sanctuary. I'm a friend of Zinnia." "Oh, which way is the sanctuary? I'm afraid I am lost." And Winella said, "Yes, I know." She said, "But right now there's something more important than you being lost. There are chocolate fiends after you." "Oh no, not chocolate fiends. I must get away." And the bear began to look around frantically like he was trying to figure out what to do. Winella said, "Here, tell me, are you like a chocolate bat? If I ask permission, can you give me some of your chocolate and it'll regrow?" The chocolate bear thought for a moment. He said, "I think so." And so Winella said, "Okay, can I have one of your fingers, please?" And chocolate bear said, "Okay." And he took one of his chocolate fingers and he gave it to her. And sure enough, a new one grew right back. And Winella said, "Okay, you go that way. It's towards the sanctuary." And then she broke the chocolate finger in half. She gave half to Lucy, and she kept half. She said, "Come on, we'll go this way and that way." And Winella and Lucy split up and went in the other direction. And they took that chocolate finger and they made marks all over the path, so the chocolate fiends would think that the chocolate bear had gone that direction. And then Winella listened, and she could hear the chocolate fiends behind her, and she could hear that they were starting to follow down the path that she was making. So she began to run faster, but she could tell they were starting to keep up with her. Now she was really happy that they weren't following the chocolate bear, and so he was probably safe, but she was a little worried that they were going to be upset when they found out that they had been following the wrong person. And so she began to run as fast as she could, but she knew that pretty soon they would catch sight of her, and just then she saw something moving in the grass ahead, and she came up on it, and it was Lucy. Lucy had landed right in front of her. She'd flown away from her path and flown over to where Winella was. And she said, "Come on, Winella." And Winella jumped on her back, and Lucy beat her great wings, and they went up into the air.
Winella ate the piece of chocolate.
And Winella put the binocular up to her eye and traced the paths that they had made in the grass back. She could see the chocolate pear was almost back to the sanctuary, and she could see that Zinnia was waiting for him, and she could find the chocolate fiends and saw them reach the end of the path where she had been, and saw them begin to look around in confusion because the path just disappeared. And she chuckled to herself and she said, "Those chocolate fiends will spend a long time talking about the mystery of the disappearing chocolate bear." And then Lucy banked and flew back down to the sanctuary, where Winella got off. Zinnia said, "Thank you for coming, Winella. Flibbertygibit is right. You did help us. Thank you so much. Now I will know who to call next time there's a problem at the sanctuary." And Winella said, "I'm glad to help." And then she got on the Cat's Paw Highway and went home.
Wait a minute. Fingers? Don't we paw? Bears don't.
Well, regular bears don't have fingers, but chocolate bears do. Short, stubby little fingers, but fingers. But you're right. Regular bears don't have fingers.
Ugh, some bears do.
So, when Nella got home early, she still had an hour left before dinner, which gave her plenty of time to finish her combination monocular, binocular, kaleidoscopic movie viewer out of Lego.
Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but heckling and clever commentary were supplied by my children. The theme music was created by Brandon Thompson, and the logo was designed by Silas Wendelin. If you know someone who might enjoy the stories, please tell them about the show. Our website is storiesforwonderfulchildren.com, and preview snippets are posted to most social media. I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.